Vivaldi's Four Seasons, written by Anna Harwell Salenza, illustrated by Joanne E. Kitchell. Venice, Italy, the jewel of the Adriatic Sea. In the 18th century, tourists flocked to Venice. They strolled through St. Mark's Square and floated in gondolas under moonlight. Venice was an island of luxury and splendor. Most of all, it was a city of music. Opera flowed from the theaters. Folk songs drifted along the canals. Trumpets and trombones filled the soaring vaults of St. Mark's Basilica. Music was everywhere. But the most mesmerizing performances came from the Ospedale della Pietà, an orphanage at the edge of the city. Each week, the Pietà hosted a concert. Visitors gathered in the Great Hall, eagerly awaiting the event. One by one, a dozen musicians appeared in the upper gallery. They raised their instruments, and within seconds, a sparkling wave of music splashed down from above. Soaring violins and violas merged with cellos and harpsichord. No one below could see the musicians' faces. A large, ornate grille hid them from view. The Pietà Orchestra was one of Italy's finest. Everyone knew the performers were special. All the musicians were young girls. The girls of the Pietà rarely left the orphanage. Only their music teacher, a priest named Antonio Vivaldi, visited them regularly. "Good morning, my young friends. Are you ready to work?" asked Vivaldi. "Yes, Padre Rossi," the girls responded as they fetched their instruments. They called him Padre Rossi, meaning Father Redhead, because of his red hair. "I have composed a new concerto," he announced with excitement. "It's marvelous if I do say so myself." Vivaldi handed out the music. "Anna Maria, you are the oldest. You may play the solo." She reached for the music, but Vivaldi pulled it back quickly. "Careful," he joked. "It's very fast." Anna Maria darted forward and grabbed the part. "Speed is no problem," she said triumphantly. "I'll play your concerto. But first, you must tell us about your newest opera." The younger girls began to jump and cheer. "Opera, opera!" Vivaldi laughed as Anna Maria handed him her instrument. "Last night's performance was wonderful," he said, pulling the bow across the strings. Violin in hand, Vivaldi brought each character to life: the valiant knight, the lovelorn maiden, the evil sorceress. In their minds, the girls traveled to distant cities, climbed volcanoes, and danced in silk gowns. Padre Rossi understood that life in the orphanage was difficult. Many of the girls had physical disabilities. Paolina limped, Teresa was blind in one eye, and Magdalena had trouble breathing. Through music, Vivaldi helped the girls forget the hard realities of their lives, at least for a while. The only bad thing about Vivaldi's job was the orphanage's board of governors. "There's no need to fill the girls' heads with silly stories," the chief governor complained. "I'm only trying to spark their imaginations," Vivaldi responded. "Storytelling makes them better musicians." "Hogwash," snapped the chief governor. "Your job is to teach them proper playing technique. We won't put up with your folly forever. Anna Maria is a fine violinist. Before long, she will be able to lead the music lessons herself." The dreaded day came sooner than expected. On a rainy spring morning in 1718, the chief governor made a rare visit to the music room. "The time has come for you to go," he said to Vivaldi. "We're suspending your salary. Anna Maria will lead the music lessons now." Vivaldi's face grew as red as his hair. Paolina and Magdalena started to cry. Anna Maria threw her music on the floor. "Enough!" shouted the governor. "My decision is final." The girls watched in silence as Padre Rossi packed his things and left. Without the girls, Vivaldi felt lost. "I need a fresh start," he thought to himself. "It's time I sought my fortune elsewhere." He traveled to Mantua in search of work, By day, he played his violin for princes and dukes. By night, he composed dozens of new pieces, operas and cantatas, sonatas and concertos. Vivaldi became an international success. Still, something was missing. The rainstorms of the Venetian spring, the buzzing bees of summer, the sweet apples of autumn, and the frozen canals of winter. With each passing season, Vivaldi missed Venice more. Most of all, he missed his young friends at the Pietà. The governors of the Pietà followed Vivaldi's success with regret. "Why did we let him go?" moaned the chief governor. "We must find a way to lure him back." "You could offer him his old job," suggested one governor. "Ridiculous," snapped the chief governor. "We could never pay him what he's worth. Besides, Anna Maria is an excellent teacher, and she doesn't cost a thing." "We could invite him to visit as a guest," suggested a second governor. "A visit would be nice," agreed the chief governor. "But I was hoping for something more permanent." "Why don't we ask him to compose for the girls on an ongoing basis?" said a third governor. "Vivaldi's music would draw much bigger audiences. We could use the extra money to cover his cost." "Excellent suggestion," cried the chief governor. Vivaldi accepted the chief governor's offer and agreed to mail the orphanage 2 compositions a month. The girls were thrilled when the first package arrived. Inside, they found a bundle of music and a cryptic note. "My dear friends, enclosed, you will find a concerto I composed here in Mantua. When I return to Venice in December, I will share the joys of spring with you. With affection, Padre Rossi." "The letter doesn't make sense," said Teresa. "We can't celebrate spring in December." Anna Maria examined the music. "Of course we can," she exclaimed. "Look, he's labeled the composition Spring." Magdalena clapped her hands. "He's got a new story for us," she said excitedly. "Hurry, there's no time to lose. We must begin practicing right away." Vivaldi visited the Pietà a few months later. Several years had passed since he had seen his young friends. When he walked through the door, the girls cheered and rushed to hug him. "Careful, girls, don't smother him," said Anna Maria laughingly. "Let's show Padre Rossi what we have learned." Still giggling with excitement, the girls took their places. "Spring greets you, Padre Rossi," Anna Maria exclaimed. The violins played a majestic march. Vivaldi began to narrate. "Spring has arrived," he said. "The birds sing a happy song. The gentle breath of the zephyrs makes the streams flow and murmur sweetly." A soft breeze rose from the violins. "Thunder and lightning greet Lady Spring as well," said Vivaldi in an ominous voice. The orchestra exploded with thunderclaps. Lightning flashed from Anna Maria's violin. When the outbursts finally fell silent, Vivaldi continued. "The little birds come back with their happy song." The girls played the opening melody one last time as the warm spring sunlight returned. "Marvelous!" cried Vivaldi. He returned to Anna Maria. "Brava, my dear, you taught them well." "Playing your music is always a joy," she replied, "especially when you are here to fill in the story." "Then let us not delay," he said. "On to the next stanza of our musical poem. In this movement, we find ourselves in a meadow. Anna Maria, you are a sleeping goatherd. Violas, you are the goatherd's barking dog." "What about the rest of us?" asked Paulina. "You have the most important part," responded Vivaldi. "You are nature herself, rustling grasses and murmuring trees." As the girls played, a lush landscape of sound spread across the room. When they came to the third movement, Teresa asked, "This last part is a celebration, isn't it, Padre Rossi?" "Indeed it is," he answered. "High on a mountaintop, a shepherd plays his pipes." Vivaldi took Teresa by the hand and skipped around the room. "Dance, dance," he cried. "Spring is here at last." The girls began playing a lilting tune. The sweet scent of flowers rose from their instruments. Nymphs and shepherds appeared. The joy of Vivaldi's spring filled the Pietà as the cold winds of winter blew outside. When the concerto concluded, Vivaldi cheered and clapped his hands. He placed a sheet of paper on the table. "This is my sonnet to spring," he said. "I wrote down the words so you'll never forget them." "Silly Padre Rossi," Magdalena said with a laugh. "We don't need the text. We have you here." Vivaldi looked confused. "Didn't the chief governor tell you?" he said. "I haven't been asked to return as your teacher." He looked down at his shoes. "Today was just a visit." Stunned by the news, the young girls looked to Anna Maria for guidance. She gently closed her music and put down her instrument. Then she walked over to her former teacher and took his hand. "Padre Rossi, you are always in our hearts," she said. "Every time we play your music, we hear your wonderful stories." "It's true," said Teresa, rushing forward to hug Vivaldi. The other girls followed. Vivaldi smiled and wiped away a tear. In the months that followed, new packages of music arrived at the orphanage. Summer, autumn, and winter among them. Anna Maria and the girls of the Pietà dazzled audiences with their virtuosic performances. Throughout the year, Vivaldi's stories played on through his music. The Sonnets. Spring. Spring has arrived, and merrily the birds hail her with happy song. And meanwhile, at the breath of the zephyrs, the streams flow with a sweet murmur. Thunder and lightning, chosen to proclaim her, come covering the sky with a black mantle. And then, when these fall silent, the little birds return once more to their melodious incantation. And so, on the pleasant flowery meadow, to the welcome murmuring of fronds and trees, the goatherd sleeps with his trusty dog beside him. To the festive sound of a shepherd's bagpipe, nymphs and shepherds dance beneath the beloved roof at the joyful appearance of spring. Summer. Beneath the harsh season inflamed by the sun, man languishes, the flock languishes, and the pine tree burns. The cuckoo unleashes its voice, and, as soon as it is heard, the turtle dove sings and the goldfinch too. Sweet Zephyrus blows, but Boreas suddenly opens a dispute with his neighbor, and the shepherd weeps, for he fears a fierce storm looming, and his destiny, the fear of lightning and fierce thunder, and the furious swarm of flies and blowflies, deprives his weary limbs of repose. Oh, alas, his fears are only too true. The sky thunders, flares, and with hailstones severs the head of the proud grain crops. Autumn. The peasant celebrates in dance and song the sweet pleasure of the rich harvest, and, fired by Bacchus's liquor, many end their enjoyment in slumber. The air, which fresher now, lends contentment, and the season, which invites so many to the great pleasure of sweetest slumber, make each one abandon dance and song. At the new dawn, the hunters set out on the hunt, with horns, guns, and dogs. The wild beast flees and they follow its track, already bewildered and wearied by the great noise of the guns and dogs. Wounded, it threatens weakly to escape, but overwhelmed, dies. Winter. To shiver frozen amid icy snows at the harsh wind's chill breath, to run, stamping one's feet at every moment, with one's teeth chattering on account of the excessive cold, to pass the days of calm and contentment by the fireside, while the rain outside drenches 100 others, to walk on the ice with slow steps, to move about cautiously for fear of falling, to go fast, slip, fall to the ground, to go on the ice again and run fast, until the ice cracks and breaks open, to hear, as they sally forth through the ironclad gates, Sirocco, Boreas, and all the winds at war. This is winter, but of a kind to bring joy. Author's note. Antonio Vivaldi, 1678 to 1741, known as Il Prete Rosso, became a priest in March 1703. 6 months later, he was appointed violin master at the Pio Ospedale della Pietà, Devout Hospital of Mercy, a charitable state-run institution for orphaned and abandoned children. A board of governors, appointed by the Venetian Senate, oversaw the institution. Records at the Pietà indicate that Vivaldi worked there, off and on, for most of his early career. In addition to the string players taught by Vivaldi, there were several girls who played brass and wind instruments, and at least a dozen who sang in the choir. During his years in Venice, Vivaldi was best known as an opera composer. The opera referred to in this story is his Orlando Finto Pazzo, which was performed in Venice in 1714 and 1716. When Vivaldi was dismissed from the Pietà around 1718, one of his students, Anna Maria dal Violino, of the violin, took his place. In 1723, Vivaldi's connection with the orphanage was re-established when he was contracted to send the orphanage 2 concertos each month. He was also invited to oversee rehearsals of his works when he could find time in his schedule. By August 1729, Vivaldi had supplied the institution with over 140 concertos. According to the Pietà's records, some of the girls suffered from physical disabilities and illness. Perhaps this is why they were hidden from view at concerts. Vivaldi also had health problems. "I go out only in a gondola or carriage," he once explained in a letter, "since my chest ailment, or constriction of the chest, prevents me from walking." Scholars do not know for certain when or where Vivaldi composed his set of concertos entitled The Four Seasons. Most likely they were written during his years in Mantua, 1718 to 1720. When the concertos were finally published in 1725, 4 explanatory sonnets accompanied them. According to Vivaldi, these sonnets were written after the music was composed. I like to think he might have created them with the girls at Pietà in mind.
Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe for new videos.